disease. Now, the periodontium is derived from two words, perio or peri, meaning around, and then dontium, meaning tooth. So when we talk about the periodontium, it means those structures around the teeth, or those structures which support the teeth. And so today we are going to look at those structures which support the tooth or the teeth, and then the diseases that commonly affect them. In this lecture, we are going to look at the components of the periodontium, and then we are going to see the location. We are going to look at the periodontal disease in general, the cause and the progression, because it will involve the signs and symptoms, and then the treatment and prevention, and then we also briefly look at the complications of this periodontal disease. Now, periodontal disease in general, now we are looking at the gum disease, the diseases which affect the gum, and also the ones that affect the bone. So you can look at the disease which affect the soft structures and those and the hard structures. Look at the periodontium. I told you earlier that the periodontium means those structures which support the teeth, and they are composed of, they are composed of the gingiva and the attachment unit or attachment apparatus. Now, looking at the gingiva, or what people call the gum, we look at the gingival unit and then the attachment unit. Those are the two structures. Those are the two structures we are looking at in this periodontium. And so looking at the gingival unit from the picture, we are looking at the gingival unit, and we are looking at the free gingiva. We shall appreciate all those as we go by. And then we also look at the attached gingiva, and then the alveolar mucosa. So when we talk about the periodontium, we talk about the various structures which we are looking at, but we shall appreciate as we move forward. So the periodontium is composed of the gingival unit and then the attachment unit. That means the free gingiva, we shall appreciate it later, and then the attached gingiva, and then the alveolar mucosa, and then attachment unit, which composed of the cementum, that is the lining of the root. Of course, it's somehow a continuation of the enamel. So the cementum starts around here and it moves around the tooth like that. That's cementum. And then the alveolar process is this one you are seeing. If you can remember your anatomy, that's the alveolar process. That's the alveolar process or the alveolar bone. And then the periodontal ligament. The periodontal ligament are these other structures which attach the tooth. So this is the periodontal ligament. That space with attachment fibers between the cementum and alveolar bone. This is the periodontal ligament. This is the periodontal ligament. And the periodontal ligament is composed of those fibers which you will appreciate later. So we're talking about the gingival unit, and we're looking at the free gingiva, the free gingiva. Take the free gingiva to be that's gingiva. Remember, we now it immediately envelops the tooth, as you are seeing here. But can you hear me?
Yes, doctor, I can hear you.
Hello?
Yes, doctor, we can hear you.
Okay, so we are still talking about the free gingiva, and that is the free gingiva. And can you see my cursor?
Yes, doctor, it is on a canine.
The gingival unit. And this is the free gingiva, I mean the interdental papilla. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah, there is the interdental papilla. Interdental papilla. Yes. Interdental meaning it's between teeth. So that's why it is called the interdental papillae, but it's part of the free gingiva. So the free gingiva comprises of interdental papilla, then the free gingival groove. You can see the free gingival groove. If you look at yourselves in a healthy situation, you will see this imaginary groove. So there is the interdental papillae, then the free gingival groove. But all this is what we are calling a free gingiva. And then there is the attached gingiva. That's the part that is firmly attached to the teeth. Because if you look at your gum, there is that part that is loose, that is loose around the tooth. It envelopes the tooth, but is loose, such that you can even stick something between here and it moves up to here. So that's where the free gingiva is. Now the attached gingiva is there. And then, of course, there is the alveolar mucosa. The alveolar mucosa. So when you talk about the gingival unit, we have the free gingiva, we have the attached gingiva, and then the alveolar mucosa. The alveolar mucosa is that part of the gingiva that covers the alveolar bone. And if you are talking about the mandibular section, there is always the inferior labiofrenum, inferior labiofrenum. And sometimes, of course, you have seen children who come to your clinic and the mothers are complaining that they have a tongue tie, but this is not the inferior labiofrenum, but is called the ringofrenum. If you go inside again, that becomes the ringofrenum. So, yeah, so between the attached gingiva and the alveolar mucosa, you can also imagine something called the mucogingival junction. All this can be clearly visible in our mouth. Yeah. So we talked about the gum disease or periodontal disease.
Doctor, your voice is low. I don't know.
Hello? It's true? It's
yes,
because I have
yes, your voice was too low.
It's because of the mask, my friend.
Okay.
But can you now hear me? Okay.
Yes, doctor.
So you can see my screen again. And so we are looking at the stages of the gum disease, or you can call it, in general, we are calling it periodontitis. I mean periodontal disease, but you will find that when we progress, you will find gingivitis and then periodontitis. Now, with gingivitis, here in layman terms, they are calling it gum disease. So we start with healthy gums and tooth, number one here. Yeah, the gums are healthy. You can see they are very well attached. Then it comes to gingivitis. Now, when it comes to gingivitis, you start seeing inflammation, and then you start looking at something called the caliculus. There is inflammation everywhere. The free gingiva and the free gingiva is inflamed. So, and it shows the signs of inflammation. And there is what we are calling caliculus. Caliculus are those attachments. It's actually some kind of mineralized biofilm. Now, this caliculus is composed of bacteria, some soft tissue, some soft substances from the mouth. Can I say some leftovers, debris from the food, and then the bacteria. Remember the other bacteria we talked about, and also minerals, because this biofilm is capable of attracting or absorbing minerals to make it hard and then attach itself on teeth. So you will look at caliculus later as we progress. And then, of course, when periodontitis comes in, then obvious periodontitis, you will see there are some pockets. The other free gingiva, the attached gingiva is detached now, and so you develop, there is a development of a pocket. And then also, after the pocket, now bacteria invades more, and then you start seeing the alveolar bone being resolved. When you compare here, the alveolar bone is still intact. The alveolar bone here is still intact. But here, because of chronic inflammation, there is this alveolar bone fraction. And when the periodontitis is advanced, you look at, there is advanced bone loss, and there is also the pockets we talked about are quite deep. And in this stage, you see the tooth may be lost, and there are so many, there are pockets, and the pockets are very, very deep. And so there is a risk of just losing this tooth. So here you can now appreciate the differences between dental caries and the periodontal disease or gum disease. Now, caries affect the teeth, the individual tooth structure, whereas the gum or periodontal disease will affect the structures which support the teeth. We talked about caliculus that had tenacious substance that attaches itself around the teeth or the gum. It can be up here, or it can even move down with more pockets. It can dig deep down to just attach in the pocket. You can see, I think we have seen people with such kind of substances in the mouth. These are called caliculus. Caliculus, you read a bit more about them in your previous time. So you can see where there is the presence of caliculus, the caliculus, there is also inflammation, meaning caliculus is so much related with inflammation. So where there is inflammation, you can see there is caliculus. But sometimes you might find where there is inflammation without caliculus. That one we shall also. So all this is caliculus, and it is associated with gingival inflammation or gingivitis. This is more pronounced. This is on the palatal aspect of the teeth, and all this is caliculus. All this is caliculus. This caliculus can be removed manually by the dentist or using hand tools or ultrasonic machines. So we are still looking at the gum disease.
Okay.
We are still looking at the periodontal or gum disease progression, and this is just what we've been talking about. The first thing, a healthy tooth, there is a healthy tooth or gums, and then there is, first of all, the small biofilm which forms is called the plaque, and then bacteria invades it, and then it becomes caliculus. And this caliculus builds up between the teeth and the gums. This is what we have been talking about. So this is caliculus building up. First of all, it is plaque, that's bacterial biofilm, which becomes mineralized and then becomes dental caliculus and is more destructive, and it comes in between here. It comes in between here. So the gums become red, or the gingiva becomes red and inflamed. And of course, the presence of bacterial substances and the caliculus will stimulate some kind of inflammatory reaction. And once it continues like this, there is bone loss, the bone recedes, and then pockets form. And then if the gum is left untreated over a time, you lose your teeth. Today we are going to look at also, I just brought in this type of gum disease, which is called the peri. And remember now, when you talk about peri, we mean around. So yes, coronitis, it means gum. Coronitis, I mean coron, it means around the coronal part of the tooth. The coronal part of the tooth, or the coronal part of the tooth. Like the 4-8, the 7-8 are erupting. Sometimes there might be a smaller space for them to erupt because all these, the 7s, the 6s have erupted, and then have left a smaller space for the 8. So when the 4-8 or 3-8 are erupting, they find the little space and they go through the gingiva, and in the process, when the tooth fails to erupt fully, somehow we begin chewing on the gum or on this flap that it covers the crown of the partially erupted tooth, with the result of inflammation. So when you see like a 4-8 or 7-8 with a flap that is inflamed, it is as a result of trauma, maybe from masticatory forces, from chewing, and then there is a result of inflammation, and that is what we call pericoronitis. Peri around the coronal part of the crown of the tooth. That is why it is called pericoronitis. This is quite very painful. It's painful actually. It's painful, and so it needs some antibiotic cover. And when you visit a dentist after antibiotic cover, this flap can be excised. It can be excised to give way for this tooth to erupt fully, or you can actually, the dentist can decide to remove the whole tooth. Remember, I told you that the Bazungus always have their 8s removed. All the 3-8, 4-8, 2-8, and 1-8 are always removed because it comes later in life when the other teeth have taken over all the space. But in Uganda, it's not a common practice here, but I've seen people losing them as well. So we look at the complication of periodontal disease. Of course, you have recurrent gum disease abscesses. You might be having recurrent gum abscesses. you might be having damage to the periodontal ligament. You saw how the periodontal ligament is composed of fibers. So the moment these fibers are destroyed as a result, of course, of alveolar bone recession and also the gum recession, you end up by having nothing to attach the tooth, and so it ends up being mobile and eventually get lost. So the alveolar bone recession is also another complication. Then the gingival recession, tooth mobility, and ultimately tooth loss. We talked about the periodontal abscess. So when you look at this, remember last week we saw an abscess associated with pulpitis, with chronic pulpitis, or a dental abscess. But this gum abscess, periodontal abscess, can also result because of the pocket being infected and blocked. And the result, the bacterial here will cause this periodontal abscess. It is quite common here. So you look at a tooth without any cavity or any dental caries, and then you see some pus oozing out here. So that one is as a result of the blockage of the pocket and causing an abscess. So we are briefly looking at the risk factors for gum disease or periodontal disease. And these are some of the factors which we will look at them in detail in the assignment I'm giving you, and also you read them from the textbook I'm referring you to. But there are some risk factors for periodontal disease. Now, for those ones who smoke, there is, of course, the irritation of the gingiva by the smoke. And so then the hormonal changes, especially in girls, women, around puberty there is also that risk. There is always some, due to the hormonal changes, there is always some inflammation, some gum disease, some gum inflammation. The mechanisms here, you'll get it, you'll learn more when we talk about some of the medical conditions which are related with teeth. So don't mind about the more explanation about this will come in subsequent lectures. Then also diabetes. I think in your practice as medical students, you have always seen diabetic patients coming with loose teeth or even gingival inflammation. All these you come to appreciate them when in the subsequent lectures about medical conditions related with the oral cavity. Then the other illnesses and their treatments. You might be, if you, for example, like people on epileptic patients, for example, and there are some medications, if you can remind me about the medications which they take chronically, will stimulate, usually stimulate gingivitis. Especially in the epileptic patients.
It is phentoin.
Phentoin.
Phentoin, yes, doctor.
Yes, phentoin, that's good. And the other related medications. Yeah. There are some other medications which irritate the gingiva. These are just beyond our scope. You will see them later when we are looking at other subsequent lectures. Then there are those ones with genetic susceptibility. You'll also appreciate this in the subsequent lectures of medical conditions related with the oral cavity. I just mentioned them here so that when you meet them, you relate them to your gum disease, because all this will be coming your way. You're treating patients and you see someone is on phentoin and is having gingivitis, so don't get confused. We look at some of the signs and symptoms. Halitosis is usually present, and it is terrible. Then, of course, there is inflammation. The gums are inflamed, and then they are tender. They bleed easily on chewing, or even on when you chew on stuff. Even when you are brushing your teeth, you see gum. You see blood coming. And then, of course, there is when it has advanced into periodontitis, there is pain during chewing, and of course, tooth loss, and then the sensitivity also comes in, because remember, the cementum is exposed or is eroded due to pocketing, due to the formation of pockets, and so there is sensitivity, and then of course there is gingival recession, and the teeth might appear longer when actually they are the same size. So that is what we are talking about. The teeth are appearing longer. The teeth are appearing longer. You can see, remember, we talked about the clinical crown. This is the clinical crown. Clinical crown. No, this is the anatomical crown, sorry. This is the anatomical crown. And it is from here that the anatomical root starts from. So all this we can appreciate because of gingival recession as a result of, first of all, chronic gingivitis, then leading to bone loss, and then alveolar bone recession. So once it continues here, so you can see now about a third of the teeth of the root is remaining. So these teeth are quite unstable. They are sensitive because this part is not supposed to be exposed in the oral environment. But once you find them exposed, then there is always tooth sensitivity. Now, when you take a periapical X-ray, there are some dental X-rays you take here, you will find such a kind of scenario. So you can see now about a third of the roots are the ones which are attached in the alveolar bone. And when you check here, you see the periodontal ligament is also enlarged. That radiolucence you are seeing, small radiolucence around the tooth, that's the periodontal ligament. So we look at the treatment and the prevention of the periodontal disease. There is always deep cleaning. Deep cleaning or scaling, there is what we call scaling and polishing, and the root planing. There is also what we are calling, sometimes you try to do flap surgery, like you try to cover that part that is exposed. That is done by specialists, some dental specialists. And then you can also do tissue grafting. Of course, all that is combined with medications. Then for brushing, for prevention, you just brush your teeth twice a day is adequate. But if you can do it more, that's better. But I know you might not be home all the time to do the many times after eating. But ideally, we should be brushing after every meal that you take, whether a snack or what. So you can floss regularly to remove plaque from between the teeth. And then you visit the dentist routinely for checkup and professional cleaning. And then we looked at some of the risk factors, including smoking. You advise the patient to stop smoking. And then if there are other underlying causes like diabetes, yes, and also like maybe epilepsy, you treat all of that. So that's part of the management. Yeah, I think that is the end of this lecture. I now invite some questions. Let me go to